Question of the day. What is your favorite science-y game? Actually, scratch that. I don't like that question. You can answer that question if you want, but what's your favorite old school Euro? Because for me, I came into the hobby around 2014, and there were a ton of great Euros already out at that time. But when I say old school Euro, because the term is subjective to when you started playing games, some of you, that would be like, I don't know, Parcheesi. I don't know what that means, but there were a lot of great games that had come out before I started getting into the hobby. But my favorite genre of all time is, worker placement and kind of like action selection, Euros, resource management. So let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite kind of old school Euro? And by that, I mean Euro that came out around 2010 to now, right? Because today we're talking about Galileo Galilei from Capstone Games. This is a game in which you're exploring the stars. Not exploring, you're observing the stars with a telescope. Literally in this case. So let's take a look at what Galileo Galilei does, and we'll come. It just sounds fun to say. It sounds like the Lonely Goat Herd song. If you know, you know. Let me know in the comments. Let's take a look right now.
All right, this is Galileo Galilei. Now I have purposely, because it's a Euro and it's an old school feeling Euro to me, left it at the end of the game state. Now, I don't know if this is a good score or bad score by comparison, but I've left it at the end of the game state so you can see what happens. Because if I just had things on the board, you wouldn't know what to do with the game. So let me just kind of show you. Your player board here features this telescope. And they're on their yellow side, which means they're upgraded. Yellow side, which means upgraded. This side would be the non-upgraded side. So essentially on your turn, you're going to start with the telescope pointing here at the very beginning of the game, pointing at this first X. On your turn, you're going to move your telescope 1, 2, or 3 spaces. You're then going to do the actions in the top part, which can't move, and then the bottom part, which can move. And by that, I mean after you're done with your action, you'll then take this and slide this up. So it becomes almost like a rondelle. It's a one-ahead rondelle almost, because this, you continue moving this direction until you get to the end. You move back here, but these will move down to the back end here. But you do not move to here. You move to here at the end. The reason I say that is because you're never able to do this same action twice, essentially. Let's talk about what the actions do really quick before we get into further what all this is. First of all, you have things to upgrade your dice. Now your dice are going to be your resources in this game. They're kind of like research where you're putting together to search the stars. So what you would need, let's use this card for an example. In order to check out the large object here of Titan, the moon, you would actually need a 15 total number and a green dice. Now you notice there are only red, yellow, and blue. Now what you're going to do is, obviously, if you're astute out there, you're going to combine the red and yellow die to get this green. That's what that is, to show you kind of what it is. Now there's also little pips on the dice to show you kind of what they are, and the pips point in a certain direction. That helps you just to know for color issues, I believe. Now, you can combine that to get 15, and there's one way to mitigate that number to get more than what's on your dice we'll talk about in a second. Or you can look at the constellations. This would be Canis Major. You could take a 6 blue dice and you get 5 points for it. Here, you're going to get 16 points for this. Now, this is a very high scoring card. 16 points, and you're going to move one of your Inquisition markers to the right. And we'll talk about what that does in a minute. When you gain them, they go right here. In-game points are going to be these stars, and then middle of the game Inquisition points are going to be at the top here. If you were to move one of the Inquisitors, you're going to move them over, you'll then take the total of your Inquisition. So currently we have -2, -1, and +1. So these would cancel each other out, leaving us at -2. This track right here means you'll then move down -2 to where at the end of the game you're going to score points for where you are on this track. Could be negative, could be positive. If you're here anytime during the game and you have to take more, you're just going to lose 2 points right then. Same thing at the top. That's how you use the cards. Now, once you get the card and you've paid the dice for just the large object, the constellation, you're just going to put one of your markers out there right here. And when you place one of the constellation markers, you're going to get the bonus printed below it. This would be to take a quadrant token, which quadrant tokens are like little free things that can be taken as instant actions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll mark this. When somebody takes it, they'll eventually take it. Now, the way to discount it is the comet action. The take a comet action, which is right here, or spot a comet, you're going to put the comet out here with the one side up above here. That's pretty much that whole action. However, when you go to buy one of these, when I say buy, explore, or not even explore, you're going to be observing one of these cards, you could spend that comet token for a -1 discount. If you have more than one there, you can combine them. Plus, with the first time you use it, it flips over to its 2 side, goes to the bottom down here, and you'll get to spend it for 2 later. Then, after you spend it for 2, it'll go in the Book of the Comets here, and at the end of your turn in the cleanup phase, you can put that over here onto one of these bonuses. These are different things such as typical symbols you would see the rest of the game. You know, getting dice, moving up the books right here. The only other 2 symbols we haven't really touched on besides gaining dice and bumping dice up. Now, just one thing to note, when it says red dice here, this does not mean 1. This means all of your red dice go up by 2. This would be gain a dice. And then there are other things that will allow you to bump all of your dice up or bump more than 1 dice up. I'm sorry, bump a dice of your choice up by 1. That's just 1, not all of them. So the other thing here would be the book. You're going to move from wherever you are with this book, if you have the flag there, to the end of the section, gaining all of these bonuses and potentially negatives along the way. The negatives would be gaining more Inquisition people. That's what moving the book to the end does. The other thing would be to move up these tracks. There are 4 different tracks here, and similarly, whatever you pass, you get the benefit of. They typically have an Inquisitor at the bottom, and these are randomized, by the way. You're going to move up them, and then this is in-game scoring as well for a multiplier for certain things. So as you move up this track, it's 3 times your farthest left book. So for us, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. If we were all the way up here, it would be 3 times 4 is 12 points. And they all kind of do different things. This would be for empty spots in your constellation area. This would be for the amount of Inquisitors you have down here, and that actually multiplies by 4, so it's a good mitigation there. This is for upgraded action tokens. The way you upgrade is by going to this last space here. You just flip 1 over. You're going to play until all these cards have been discovered in the draw pile, and then basically all the cards over here in the draw pile will be gone, and then these 6 cards will be here. Finish that turn, play 1 equal round. Person with the most points wins the game. There are mid-game bonuses as well, which would be first person to get these different bonuses, and again, these are randomized too with those. We'll gain 7 points for first, 3 points for second place. If you get the little check mark next to an Inquisitor, you get to pull your furthest right one off. And then when you do that, you're going to gain a quadrant token and a dice of your choice. You will count points at the end of the game, points here, and then you would already have collected your points for your constellations and large objects. The person with the most points wins the game. That is Galileo Galilei. But oh, there's more. There's a bonus or a module where you can play with individual player powers with Copernicus here. And everybody has their own powers, but these do different things when you use them. So that is Galileo Galilei.
All right, so that is Galileo Galilei. I'll try to say it a little slower instead of running it together like that. This game is phenomenal. I love it. I'll just tell you that right now. Now, as you know, it's been a busy summer for us, incredibly busy. But we do a rubric system here in which I give you 7 or, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 scores and give you a total based on the aggregated score of that. So, going to be pretty high scores on all this. So the concept to me is a 9. I love this idea of you're looking through the telescope as Copernicus or Galileo or all these different people, Kepler, and you're looking at things and observing them. To me, that's awesome. I love walking outside at night and looking up and being like, oh, there's the Little Dipper. There's the North Star. Look, that's Mars. That's probably Jupiter or Venus or whatever you can see. I love it. Like, it's fascinating to me. There's a sense of transcendent awe that I get when I walk outside and look at the stars. And we get to, in our neighborhood, it's not super bright, so we can do that. So I love it. So this concept really speaks to me anyway, because I love this, right? So it's a 9. The board layout is also 9. I love this. It reminds me of old school Euros. And again, there's that subjective term where you have your player board. There's a central board that everybody uses with stuff on it. But you're playing down here and some out there. I love it. So I think the board layout's great. You have the cards that lay across there for the night sky. Your board is fantastic. Your components are great. That telescope is such a cool thing. Now, let's be honest. It's a 9 for board layout. As we believe into mechanics here, it's kind of a rondel, right? It's really kind of a rondel in which things shift. In fact, it reminds me of Kraftwagen a little bit in the sense that you have you take an action and then that action picks up and moves to the back, and then you're kind of continuing on. Because if you think about it in reality, that telescope going up and then back down is really the same thing as continuing around as if you were in a circle, right? Or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how physics work. But it's kind of a rondel, and you could have done this by just going, okay, move your selector, move your telescope marker to the next space, and then rearrange. No, but it's the whole idea of looking into the night sky. I think that's so, it's one of those little things that to some people may not matter, but to me it really matters. So the notion of choosing your actions, that some of them are permanent. So you know what you're going to point at here and get this action, but the ones on the white tokens are not permanent. They move and change. I think that's so great to give permanent and semi-permanent actions, or whatever, temporary actions. To me, that's a really cool thing. So the dice being what they are, I like that too, where you're bumping the dice number up, you're combining dice, you're using multiple dice of one color to get a higher number, or you're using 2 dice to get to purple, green, and orange. I think that's really cool as well. So mechanics are 9, art directions a 9, everything makes sense. The only things that are a little tricky, and it's really not that tricky, is just understanding what the 3 Inquisitor symbols are. That's why this is a 9, because the hardest thing is very simple. It's the Inquisitor symbol with a little check mark, a plus, or a move. That's it, really. So very straightforward. And then the Inquisitor symbol without that means you have an Inquisition, which you can look in the rulebook and see what that does. It's very simple. Art 10. I think this is fantastic. I love the way the cards look for the actual night sky stuff. It just looks so great. I really, again, this brings me back to a newer nostalgia for me of playing games like Agricola for the first time. You know, I love the way this looks. Your components are fantastic. Everything just looks so nice on the table. So I think this is just a beautiful game. So 10 on art. Gameplay is an 8. Now, the only reason I give it an 8 is because there aren't a ton of things to do. And like a Euro, many of the times your best choice is not your most wanted choice. Like what you have to do that turn may not be what you actually really wanted to do, not because somebody else blocks your space in this case, but because you just don't have the dice for it. And so when you think through, you're trying to think multiple turns ahead, somebody may take the card that you want, so you have to go, okay, well, crud, I've got to rearrange my whole 2-turn build up. So it's not that big of a deal, but that's the only reason I give it an 8, not because it's a downfall, but because it can get a little frustrating if you're constantly having to rearrange and change things on the fly. Now, granted, your dice should be high enough to where there would be multiples out there, but there are times where you've only got, by accident, just by virtue of what you've been choosing or given, blue and yellow dice, and most of the cards need an orange out there, and that's tricky. But you could always go for constellations at that point, but you have to spend the dice for that. Gameplay's at 8. Rulebook is 9. It's actually a really solid rulebook. I really don't see. I'm going to give the rulebook actually a 10 here. I don't know how this is going to change my math on the back end, but I think all in all, the rulebook's perfect. It's so good at telling you everything you need to know, and there's no problems of going like, what do I need? The only thing that might be tricky is instead of just a sentence that says, you do not have to do all of the actions in an action, it says you may. Now again, that's obvious language, but some people may struggle with that going, wait, what do, so you may take that, whatever. Either way, the rulebook's fantastic. All in all, comes out to a 9. It's going to be in my games of the year list at the end of the year, guaranteed at this point, because man, I love this game. It's still sitting on the table to be played again. Like, it's that kind of a game where I just really, really, really enjoyed playing it the first time. And subsequent, and then want to play it even more after. It's that kind of a game where it just is a permanent for us. So big fan of Galileo 9.0 from me, Brian Drake, on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Till next time, we will see you.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Bassel.